It all starts with a game called Prison Day, created by a dark cosmic god just to pass the time. This forced participation game features dungeons of varying difficulties, and players are chosen at random. However, if you fail on this journey, you'll be permanently sealed inside the game with no chance of escape. Because of this, everyone believed they could defeat the boss, get an S-rank card, and become a winner. But in the midst of all this destruction, the sole survivor of this cruel game was just one person. Our protagonist thought that by clearing dungeons and growing stronger, he would achieve his desires. But the outcome was becoming a god. Yet he seems anything but happy with this ending, declaring he won't become a member of the Dark Gods. An entity then tells Tokia to join to gain eternal life and the power of a god so they can rule together. This dark being then questions if he will truly abandon his qualification to become a deity. Toki confirms, lamenting that even after making all the right choices, he ended up losing his mother, his friends, and his girlfriend. Next, we see flashes of the protagonist's memories, showing that everyone important to him was lost in this game. The Dark God addresses the lone survivor, Krosu Tokia, and asks for his next wish. The young man's only wish was to have a peaceful, normal life with the people he loved by his side. At that, he recalls his girlfriend asking him out for a weekend date while holding her hand. Fueled by this memory, the protagonist yells that the entity destroyed everything, and now he will wipe away this world and its painful history. Suddenly, a brilliant light erupts from our hero's hand, and a golden card begins to materialize. He warns the god to stop its threats, as this card holds a power the entity cannot control. Tokia then unveils his time reversal card, which can erase every's memories and let him redo his life. Seeing this, the entity is stunned, unable to believe the young managed to obtain such a card. The being remarks that this is interesting and hopes to meet him again before vanishing. With an intense glow, the time reversal effect of the golden card activates. Tokio vows that he will return prepared and won't let anything precious be taken from him again. Suddenly, the protagonist's eyes fly open, showing that the effect worked. He jolts awake in a hospital bed, completely disoriented and unaware of his surroundings. Looking around with a bewildered expression, the young man tries to process what just happened. The protagonist stares at his own hands, finally realizing he successfully traveled back in time. He scans the room and wonders if he's really in Midorasaki City Hospital. Just then, his mother enters the room and worriedly asks if he had another nightmare. With a gentle smile, she approaches and comforts him, saying she's there and he doesn't need to worry. Seeing his mother alive and well before him, Tokia is utterly shocked and softly calls her name. He remembers that in the previous timeline, her consciousness was sealed in the game, leaving her in a vegetative state. Overcome with emotion, the young man embraces her tightly, telling her how much he missed her. Confused by her son's reaction, she asks if his condition has worsened. We learn that Krosa Tokia has been hospitalized since childhood with a severe dissociative disorder. Because of this, he constantly hears the voices of multiple personalities in his head, but no one believes him. Even though his condition prevented a normal life, this was precisely the routine he had always longed for. However, a digital clock on the table reads 1726, and time is running out. Tokio realizes prison day starts at 6 o'clock in the evening, meaning he only has 34 minutes of freedom. His consciousness will be transferred, and if he loses in the game, his real-world body will fall into a permanent coma. Knowing that newbies start in errant dungeons, he scrambles to write down every strategy he can remember. Aware the dungeons are simple if you know the rules, he declares he'll finish writing everything in just 10 minutes. Tokio needs to write in a way his mother can understand to boost her chances and also to help his friend Kia. His mother then advises him not to overdo it and mentions she's just stepping out to take out the trash. Watching her leave, he reflects that unlike his father, his mother never once abandoned him. He recalls how his father squandered the family's money and simply left them behind. His mother raised him alone through countless hardships, and he only now understands that the most precious things were always by his side. Abruptly, his room door swings open and someone enters. It was his friend Kia carrying his favorite snacks. The protagonist remarks that it's been a long time. His friend is confused since they saw each other just 3 days ago. It's revealed this is his childhood friend, Jana Chiquita, who was the only one who defended him as a child when others treated him poorly because of his condition. However, in his past life, his friend was lost trying to help him, and our hero vows not to let that tragedy repeat itself. Back in the present, his curious friend asks what he's writing. Tikuya replies that it's a strategy guide. His friend questions if he should be playing games as it might worsen his condition, but the young man insists he must do this. Ka finally understands, thinking it must be an incredible game for him to be so determined to play. The protagonist hands him the notebooks, instructing him to read one and give the other to his mother, leaving his friend baffled. He urges Kia to read and memorize as much as possible, promising it will definitely be useful later. Although finding his friend's behavior odd, the young man agrees and takes the notebooks. Toki resolves that to protect those he loves, he must clear the dungeons, collect the cards, and become the strongest. The narrator explains that defeating monsters yields cards of various types like weapons, items, and skills that grant powers. Only 15 strength cards exist, boasting absolute effects that even the dark gods cannot interfere with. One of them being the time reversal card. Determined, Tokyo affirms that the S-rank cards will be his trump cards, and that he will collect them all to defeat the dark gods. The clock on the table nears 6 o'clock. Time for the game start is almost up. Glancing at the clock and a photo on the table, the protagonist knows prison day is about to begin. The photo shows him happy with his mother and Kia, but this peaceful life will be over in just 1 minute. A system notification then appears congratulating him on being selected as a player in the first group. The picture on the table begins to glitch with digital artifacts appearing over the family photo. In that moment, our hero's body starts to digitize as his soul is exported into the game. The system then initiates the process of importing his in-game memories into his mind. Now in the digital space, Tiquia vows that this time he will protect his loved ones and become the strongest once more. With a furious gaze, he promises to defeat the foolish god toying with their world. A welcome screen for a prison day materializes, wishing the players an enjoyable game. The system loads the player data for Krosu Tokyo and creates the first E-class dungeon, the Office of D's. Next, the system attempts to delete his real-world memories, but repeatedly fails. With the boss generation complete, the young man realizes everything is identical to his previous life. He finds himself in a dungeon that looks exactly like a real-world office. The protagonist knows some players have their memories wiped, but for some reason, his remain intact. Already knowing what's coming, he braces himself for the opening E-class dungeon. The dungeon is named the Office of D's, and several people are at their desks, oblivious to the danger. To clear this low-level dungeon, one must defeat 3 bosses, each with different abilities. Without wasting a second, the protagonist commands the system to open his status panel, and a blue screen appears. With that, Kroskia status panel opens, revealing his player information. He notes that everything has been reset. Defeating the 3 bosses now is nearly impossible. So, his priority is to raise his skills. The young man wonders about the unidentifiable blessing and if it's connected to his memories from his past life. Regardless, he needs a skill card to defeat the stage, 1 boss, and strategizes his next move. Suddenly, an idea strikes the protagonist as he remembers something crucial about this dungeon. He recalls a hidden side quest. If he can get a skill card there, victory won't be so difficult. With 10 minutes left before the main mission starts, Toki arises, determined, knowing there's still time to act. Rushing through the office, he remembers the voice he's heard since childhood, noting it was clearer after he was reborn. The voices spoke of saving the earth, insisting that to win, they needed to merge their powers with his to defeat the dark god. Confused by this, he wonders if he can obtain a power separate from the S-rank cards. He then halts in front of the men's restroom door, his destination. Deciding to unravel the mystery of the voices later, he enters the restroom, focused on the side quest. Upon arriving, he confirms this is the spot and that his first task is to unlock the treasure chest. A system notification informs him he has reached the hidden location and the side quest is starting. A blue screen reveals the mission's name, the secret hidden in the men's restroom. Wasting no time, the protagonist kicks a stall door with force, yelling that he'll clear this at top speed. Inside the stall, a small blue horn creature is startled by the sudden intrusion. The system identifies the creature as the Cowardly Ogre, an urban legend perched atop the chest. The little monster tries to look menacing, puffing up and letting out a fierce growl to intimidate the young man, but with glowing red eyes, Taya yells at the ogre to get out of the way, or else. The tiny monster shrinks back in fear from the protagonist's threat, looking as if it's about to cry. With a terrified shriek, the small blue creature scrambles and leaps away from the young man. A system notification pops up, informing him that the Cowardly Ogre has been defeated and he secured the chest. The hero muses that such a weak creature was guarding the treasure. It fled the moment he threatened it. But the system states that while the chest contains the reward, it can't be opened without a key. Unconcerned, the protagonist simply stumps hard, shattering the treasure chest. At this, the system merely announces that the player has successfully broken the treasure chest. He remarks that many are fooled by the display and miss this, but a newbie can easily claim the cards. The system then lists the acquired items, vigor, speed, and power cards, all E-class. He holds the 3 basic skill cards, stating that with them, he can finally activate his player status. The young man then activates the cards, and his body is enveloped in a green aura as his skills level up. The system confirms his speed, power, and vigor have increased to level 1 with a cap at level 5. With a confident smile, he notes the effect is minor but clear, and now he can take on the 3 bosses. His status panel updates, now showing his basic skills at level 1 alongside the unidentifiable blessing. Activating the panel with the cards makes him a formal player. Even at level 1, he is far beyond a normal human. To test his new strength, the protagonist punches the restroom wall, which cracks under the impact. The mirror also shatters into countless pieces, unable to withstand the force of the blow. He figures that with these stats and his past life experience, he should clear this dungeon with ease. But he knows that defeating the gods and protecting the world is still a distant goal. With that, he vows to use every tool at his disposal, including the power from the owner of that voice. Looking at the system screen, the protagonist says he needs to understand this unidentifiable blessing better. He then shouts at the system, asking if the owner of the voice gave him this strange blessing. With a smirk, he admits he was just kidding, as he didn't expect an answer anyway. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoes in his mind, declaring that from now on, everything depends on him. In that instant, dark, sinister silhouettes begin to form around our hero in the restroom. The shadows then completely engulf him, pulling him into a dark and unknown space. Utterly confused, the young man finds himself floating in a void. Unable to comprehend what's happening, the voice continues its message, stating they're always watching him from somewhere. He demands to know who they are, why they are helping him with this mysterious blessing, and what their motives are. The entity replies that first he must prove his worth, as their help was merely a whim. Back in the restroom, the voice warns him that the battle is about to begin and he must hurry. With a determined gaze, Tiquia affirms that he wants their power and will undoubtedly prove his strength. A system notification announces the countdown is over. The boss has been generated and raid mode has begun. The screen welcomes them to Prison Day and announces that the challenge in the Office of Demise dungeon is starting. A warning appears. Anyone not in position will fail the raid. The time limit is 59 seconds. The protagonist sprints, confident that with a speed card, he'll make it with time to spare. With only 18 seconds left, the tension mounts as he races through the office. However, 2 men are blocking the front door, shouting they don't have time for games. Annoyed, the hero thinks there are always a few fools who can't grasp the situation. As soon as the timer hits 0, the 2 players at the door are instantly eliminated. The other players are stunned by the scene, realizing this game is real and deadly. He just watches calmly, remarking that if you break the rules here, it's simply over. Suddenly, a red digital gate begins to close, and everyone panics, unsure of what to do. A warning flashes. The boss will appear shortly, and the battle against the E-rank monsters will commence. Amidst the chaos, the silhouettes of the first boss and its minions appear before them. The protagonist already knew this would happen and that to clear the dungeon, all bosses must fall. With that, the first boss materializes, looking like a janitor, and announces it's time to take out the trash. The system displays the stats of the E-rank scavenger boss, wielding an iron broom and a sharp dustpan. Its minions are the cleaner E-rank monsters with far more basic stats and weapons than the boss. One of the players scoffs at the monsters, saying a mere E-rank is nothing to worry about. A huge man agrees, boasting he'll take down those weaklings with just a few good punches. Tokyo warns everyone to stay calm, as their strength defies common sense, and they shouldn't be arrogant. He knows that even at level 1, these monsters are beyond what a civilian can handle. Brute force is a death sentence. The large man gets angry and tells the protagonist to shut up since he barely made it in time and has no right to talk. With a wicked grin, he declares he'll strike first and shoot to the top of the elimination rankings. The man is already dreaming of becoming a billionaire with cars, mansions, and women. High risk, high reward. He then charges forward, yelling for the monster to become just another stepping stone to his vast fortune. However, the boss parries the attack with its iron broom, which glows with an intense green energy. The brood is sent flying, landing hard on the ground and leaving the other players terrified. The boss then announces that the cleaning shift has started, and its minions advance on the horrified players. The boss laughs, declaring that all the trash here needs to be sanitized while players scream for help. But amidst this chaos, our hero remains composed, preparing to spring into action. He lunges at one of the monsters, landing a powerful punch that sends it flying back with force. Upon impact, the minion hits the ground and dissolves in a green light, signaling its defeat. The young man states that to clear the game, the boss must be defeated. He needs to get stronger and claim an S-rank card. The other players are stunned to see someone fighting even after the brawny man was taken down. One of the minions gets back up, insisting it must continue cleaning the trash, proving it's not done yet. Wielding a broom, the protagonist attacks the monster with a powerful energy-infused vertical strike. The minion dissolves into light particles and a red card appears in its place as a reward. He explains that the reward notification only appears if you secure the final blow. Otherwise, you have to finish the job. The players are dumbfounded, wondering who he is since he's clearly stronger than the muscular guy from before. The young man muses that even at a low level, defeating these monsters could yield one of 3 cards. Without delay, the protagonist decides to activate the power card he just acquired in battle. The system confirms that his power has increased from level 1 to level 2 with the card's activation. Immediately after, another of the boss's minions appears, ready to attack our hero with its iron broom. He knows that after awakening, even a single level difference is enough to overwhelm an opponent. The monster charges forward with its broom, attempting to strike our protagonist. But with a smirk, the hero declares the monster isn't even worth his precious time. With a single swift and precise blow, he defeats the minion, which vanishes into light before him. He obtains another power card, raising his power level to 3 and making him even stronger. Suddenly, the young man senses an attack from behind and spins around to defend himself. With a swift and precise motion, he uses his iron broom to counterattack and defeat the creature. Toya then says with an air of superiority that cheap shots don't work on him. A system notification confirms he has defeated another cleaner and obtained an E-rank speed card. He smiles, holding the new green card, noting that speed is another crucial attribute for victory. The boss and his remaining minions turn to the young man, calling him filthy, disgusting trash. The narrator explains that due to the aggression value, players with many takedowns are targeted more heavily, increasing the difficulty. The hero knows the boss's skill boosts its power, so he must fight alone and take them down one by one. With that, the boss and its last 2 minions charge at our protagonist with everything they have. Toki yells to the other players, telling them to throw things at the monsters to buy him time for a counterattack. He thinks that if there's anyone here with potential, he can help them clear the dungeon, allowing more people to survive. However, the other players are terrified, saying they'll be eliminated if they attack the monsters. Seeing their cowardice, the protagonist realizes he'll have to create his own opening. The boss charges forward, broom raised, shouting trash as it prepares to strike, but the young man hurls a keyboard at the monster, which blocks the attack and creates a small window of opportunity. The other players are surprised by his move, and the hero lets out a ho, seeing that it worked. One of the players then yells at the others that the young man is fighting for them, and they need to help. But the man in the suit holds him back, shouting that normal people like them can't fight monsters. The boss becomes enraged at the players, declaring it will sanitize all these piles of trash. With that, the monster charges toward the other players who scream in terror at its approach. A player screams in desperation, begging for someone to do something as the monster closes in. Bookie acts swiftly, taking down the 2 remaining minions at once and saving the young man. With a confident smile, he thinks that at his current stats, he can end this in a second. Only the boss remains. The system rewards him with another speed card and a power card for defeating the minions. The boss then turns to another player, shouting that it needs to sanitize the trash while the man begs for help. Then the protagonist appears behind the monster and coldly states that the only trash here is him. With a single precise and powerful blow, he finishes off the boss, which collapses with no chance to retaliate. The system congratulates player Tokia for successfully defeating the first stage boss. With this, the contribution ranking is unlocked and the young man is awarded prizes for defeating the boss. With 700 points, he takes first place and learns that the leaders receive the number 1 S-rank card. He reflects that he didn't obtain this card in his past life and wonders about its power. He notices the other players still haven't defeated any monsters, but knows that staying on top will be a challenge. It's explained that the ranking includes every player invited to the first dungeon worldwide. The arrival of Prison Day occurred simultaneously across the globe, affecting countless people at once. He recalls that in his previous life, there were many powerful individuals with unique and incredible abilities. Since the rewards and rankings change with each dungeon, he must always clear them with a perfect score. Now stronger than ever, he vows to defeat the Dark God. And to do so, he needs the number 1 card. The system then displays his rewards, 2 Vigor cards and 2 special cards, Purity and Iron Seed. He's surprised by the Iron Seed, remarking that he got lucky as it can create a weapon based on his aura. The Iron Seed card creates a dedicated iron weapon and offers a chance to obtain a special one. He thinks the best possible weapons would be a sword or a katana and hopes for good luck. The protagonist then turns to the man with glasses who helped him earlier, surprising him. Toki notes that the man assisted him in a dangerous situation, a quality necessary for a good player. The hero thanks him for distracting the boss, but the man humbly says he was just trying to save himself. Because of this, he offers the man some cards, explaining they can awaken his powers and help him, but the man with glasses feels awkward and refuses, insisting the protagonist should be the one to use them. Tokyo insists, telling him not to be shy since he helped and deserves the reward. He then demonstrates how to use the cards, thinking he needs to boost his own attributes for stage 2. Without wasting another moment, our hero activates his own cards to prepare for the next challenge. His power and speed stats rise to level 4, and the man with glasses finally understands the process. Adachi then activates his cards and feels his body become lighter, experiencing a level up for the first time. His status window appears, revealing his name, Adachi Fumihiko, and his new basic attributes. He's shocked to see he gained experience points without directly defeating a monster. Toki explains that simply contributing to a fight grants experience and leveling up also raises attributes. Adachi then asks for a hero's level, and he replies he's already at level 4, leaving the man stunned. Next, we see Tokyo's updated status panel, showing he has already reached level 4 across the board. He then takes the Iron Seed, excited to see what weapon his aura will generate. The seed begins to transform in his hand, releasing an intense and powerful blue energy. The sword is a growth-type weapon that absorbs an opponent's HP and gains a new skill every 10 levels. With a smile, he remarks that it's not bad at all, and being a rare weapon, it could rival a C rank one. Adachi is dumbfounded, saying that's beyond amazing and just what you'd expect from the one who defeated the monster. The protagonist thinks the new weapon is nowhere near what he used in his past life, but admits it has potential. A system notification congratulates everyone for successfully clearing the first stage of the dungeon. Immediately after, Stage 2 is announced, and all players must proceed to the boss's refectory. The young man realizes everything is unfolding exactly as it did in his past life, which calms his nerves. He then invites Adachi to join him, and the man with glasses accepts without hesitation. Toki explains he wants an intelligent companion for the future, and Adachi is an excellent choice. Thrilled by the opportunity, the man accepts, and the protagonist urges them to head to the next location. The other players then begin to beg to be taken along, promising rewards and favors. One player argues that if he's so skilled, he should help others and take everyone with him. With his eyes glowing red with fury, the protagonist threatens to crush the man if he doesn't move. The players are utterly terrified by the threat and our hero's intimidating aura. Without another word, he and Adachi walk past the other players who part ways in fear. One of the players comments on his terrifying gaze and how that stare sent a chill down his spine. Adachi asks if he's really leaving the others behind, but the protagonist says they would only slow him down. He coldly states he has no duty to save everyone and that he is no saint. Adachi then promises to do his best, not to be a burden, and Tokyo warns him about the next boss. The man with glasses is intrigued by the mention of mental corruption and asks if it's a debuff from the monster. They arrive at the boss's refectory, where the system instructs them to sit to participate in Stage 2. Upon entering, the delicious aroma of food fills the air, and a red monster appears before them. Adachi lets out a startled scream as the bright red monster suddenly materializes in front of him. Tokyo warns him to sit down quickly, or he'll be eliminated like the others who failed to follow the rules. They take their seats, and the man with glasses remarks that since it's close to Stage 1, no one should be late. But the protagonist counters that if they make the wrong choice, they won't arrive in time. Meanwhile, the other players are running desperately down the hall, regretting not having left sooner. The countdown hits just 10 seconds, and the tension builds for the late players. They finally reach the refectory and scramble to find a place to sit. The timer then hits 0, and the system announces the end of the countdown for Stage 2. One of the last players to arrive stands at the door, relieved, thinking he's safe. But suddenly, he senses a terrifying presence right behind him, and his eyes widen in fear. The stage boss strikes him from behind, declaring his time is up and he's out of the game. The other players are shocked, realizing the Red Cook is the stage boss. With a cart full of bizarre food, the boss orders all players to eat. Adachi grimaces in gust as the boss serves a disgusting green slime onto his plate. The meal appears to be made from the monsters of the previous stage, making it even more grotesque. The reflection in Adachi's glasses reveals his sheer terror and revulsion at the situation. He then realizes that the substance in the food is one of the monsters from before and is horrified. The system warns that looking at the food will cause mental corruption, lowering their stats. Adachi worries that with reduced attributes, clearing the dungeon will be much more difficult. But Tikuya stares at the full meal and calmly tells his friend that's not all. A system notification declares the banquet from the underworld has been served. Leaving leftovers will result in retaliation from the monster. With 7 minutes remaining, a warning states that if a player's mental value drops to 0, they will be disqualified. Adachi panics. If they don't eat, they'll be eliminated, but he can't imagine swallowing that stuff. With a confident smirk, Tikuya agrees it's tougher than stage 1, but he knows the way to clear it. His friend offers to help, but the hero tells him to hang on and use the purity card if necessary. The mental corruption intensifies, and the system informs them that the player's mental power is steadily decreasing. A female player says just looking at the disgusting food makes her want to be sick. The protagonist knows that with skills reduced by corruption, defeating the 4 monsters is impossible. The standard strategy is to eat the banquet and distract the monsters, but that only yields minimal points in rewards. Suddenly, the system announces his unknown blessing has made him immune to mental attacks, which shocks him. With a confident smile, the young man declares they can now clear it using the hidden high difficulty rule. He's thrilled as they can now aim for high score rewards to protect his ranking. One of the players rebels, throwing his plate to the ground and shouting that he won't eat that filth. Adachi notes the man's mental state hasn't collapsed, and Toki explains that the mind deteriorates faster. The player completely snaps, stomping on the disgusting food on the floor while laughing and yelling that he absolutely will not eat it. In that instant, the boss appears and lands a powerful blow on the player who refused the food. The monster warns that if he doesn't eat, he'll be eliminated, but the fallen man still refuses to complain. The boss then grabs the player's face, its hand glowing with an intense red energy. The man is dragged away by the monster, still laughing hysterically and refusing to eat the slime. The kitchen door slams shut, taking the disobedient player and the boss with it. One of the players says if they don't eat, they'll be removed, but there's no way to stomach that food. A system alert shows that no player has finished the banquet, and everyone's mental fortitude is now at 60%. The protagonist explains that the hidden rule for clearing this stage involves starting on easy and then switching to hard. He then stands and throws his plate to the floor, shouting that it's impossible to eat that stuff. The first condition is to draw the monster's attention to switch the game to hard mode, which he has just done. The system warns that the cook monster is locked on him as a target, raising his elimination risk to 80%. The boss appears behind him, threatening to put his brain in a pan and cook it. The second condition is to defeat an enemy to focus the other monster's aggro on him. And that's his next move. With his sword drawn, he charges one of the monsters, attacking it with a quick, precise strike. He follows up with a spinning attack, defeating the monster in a single decisive blow. A notification confirms the Malice Pride has been defeated, rewarding him with 2 power cards and 1 vigor card. With that, Stage 2 officially begins, and his power stat is updated to level 5. Since an enemy was defeated, the aggro of the other 3 skyrockets to 100%, activating hard mode. This is the hidden high difficulty rule. First strike, which causes all monsters to focus on him. The 3 remaining monsters enter a rage mode, their eyes glowing red, ready to attack. By taking one down, he successfully draws the attention of the others, protecting the other players. He knows that with all the aggro concentrated on him, the chance of elimination is much higher, so he must be careful. Therefore, he needs to maintain distance and conserve his strength for the final boss battle. As the sole target, he can't use distractions and must fight with everything he's got. One of the monsters threatens him, saying he won't escape and will be turned into minced meat. The butcher lunges with its cleaver, but the protagonist parries the blow with his new blue sword. Gritting his teeth, he manages to hold back the monster's attack, which seems surprised by his strength. The monster can't believe the young man stopped its blade and prepares to use a new technique. It activates its instant knife handling skill, unleashing a flurry of strikes at the hero, but with a smirk the protagonist thinks, "I've got you." Having already devised a plan to win, he knows he lacks enough cards and must defeat the minions to unlock his sword's ability. With that, he dodges the attacks and begins to counter the monsters with quick, precise strikes. The monster taunts him, asking if he can keep up with its speed, boasting it's the fastest of the cooks. It declares the young man will lose and questions if his allies can defeat a cursed sword like its own. The hero continues to fight masterfully, landing several hits on all 3 monsters at once. His sword begins to glow as he successfully blocks one of the monster's attacks. One of the creatures shouts in surprise as a projectile is fired from our protagonist's sword. The monster wonders how their skills can be identical and how this can be so unfair. The sword's exclusive skill unlocks, allowing him to use the powerful time splitter cut. The monster then realizes the young man's attacks were charging his skill points. Desperate, it screams for the others to run, realizing it was all a well-planned trap. But with a wicked smile, the protagonist says it's too late and activates his new skill. With a single powerful slash of red energy, he strikes all three monsters at once. The system confirms that the butcher, the gastronome, and the chopper have all been defeated. With victory secured, he remarks that the most obvious traps are often the most real and collects his rewards. Adachi is relieved, saying his hands are sweating, but the protagonist calculated everything perfectly. A system warning states the hidden rule has been activated. The stage boss is now enraged, boosting its abilities. Adachi panics, seeing the boss's abilities have increased due to the hidden rule. Suddenly, the entire refectory begins to tremble with a sinister red energy heralding the boss's arrival. The protagonist warns everyone that the boss is stronger now. If they don't defeat it, they will all be eliminated. The hidden rule forces a direct confrontation, but increases the rewards by 30% in exchange. With a determined look, the hero declares his objective in this world is to claim the best rewards. The kitchen door explodes, and the boss appears, its hands glowing with red energy. Furious, it roars, demanding to know who eliminated its precious cooks as its stats are revealed. Adachi is terrified by the boss's power, wondering if they can possibly win this fight. Without hesitation, the protagonist uses all his available cards, preparing for the final showdown. He knows he can't hold back against the enhanced boss and unleashes his full power. 4 skill cards are used at once, maxing out his power, speed, and vigor stats. Since he rank cards cap at level 5, the remaining speed cards are now useless. He tosses the extra cards to Adachi, telling him to use them immediately to help in the fight. The man with glasses activates the speed cards he received from our protagonist, strengthening himself. His speed and vigor stats increase, and he realizes the hero gave him the cards to help him survive. The boss bellows furiously, once again, demanding to know who is responsible for taking out its cooks. The other players are paralyzed by the monster's roar, losing their will to resist its power, but Adachi realizes he feels no fear. The card's power is shielding him from the boss's roar. The boss threatens the players, saying it will crush their heads if they don't reveal who took out its cooks. Suddenly, something slices through the air at high speed towards the monster, just as it's about to attack. It was the protagonist who materializes and blocks the boss's attack with his sword, saving the others. The monster is shocked that its attack was stopped by a mere player and glares at him with rage. Tokia then takes the blame, defiantly stating he was the one who eliminated the cooks. The boss vows to make him pay in the most miserable way possible, saying it will take his brain after the others. But the hero cuts it off with a smirk, reiterating that he'll be cutting its neck before that happens. The monster laughs, challenging him to try as it charges with its cleaver, ready for an all-out assault. The impact of their clash creates a powerful shockwave that cracks the refectory floor. Adachi shouts the protagonist's name in concern as he sees him thrown back by the boss's sheer force. But the young man gets up, reassuring his anxious friend that he's fine. He muses that it's been a long time since he heard someone call him that way, and his mind drifts to the past. In his previous life, his friends called him by that name, but they were all lost along the journey. He then remembers with sorrow how his companions fell, leaving him all alone. With a somber expression, he wonders why he was the only one to survive amid so much tragedy. The boss charges again, yelling it will slice him to pieces and preparing for another powerful attack. The protagonist thinks that he didn't understand it back then, but now he knows what must be done. He faces the monster with determination, shouting for it to prepare for the end with a deadly glare. The two then clash their weapons once more, the impact of their battle echoing throughout the refectory. The protagonist's sword begins to glow with an intense red energy as he readies his final attack. The boss is taken back by the speed of the young man's assault, wondering if he was holding back before. Using his time splitter cut ability, the protagonist unleashes a barrage of red slashes. He reflects that he survived his past life because he was courageous and never hesitated. With a cry of determination, he declares that more than anything, he always wanted to win and be the best. He vows that nothing will stop him from achieving victory. But it's not just about winning. The protagonist states he wants to protect everyone's lives and preserve a normal, peaceful world. The system announces the second stage boss has been defeated and the reward is increased by 30%. His rewards include power, vigor, and speed cards along with a special memory card. He also receives a surprise boss buff, which increases one ability by 3 levels for 10 minutes. The hero realizes that without triggering the hidden rule, he wouldn't have earned the extra contribution points. He then opens the ranking screen to check his current score and the status of other players. With 1,700 points, he remains in first place and sees the same top players from his past life. He knows they are all talented and will undoubtedly become key players in the future. The Dark Gods won't leave them be. They will prepare cruel stages where many strong players were sacrificed. But in this life, he plans to acquire the S-rank card that can resist them and eagerly awaits their reunion. He then gazes at the images of his former rivals, bracing himself for the challenges to come. A system notification congratulates everyone for clearing the second stage and announces the start of the final stage. The remaining time is just under 5 minutes, and all players must proceed to the underground lobby. With a serious expression, the protagonist prepares himself. The final most challenging stage is about to begin. He then calls out to his friend Adachi, who responds promptly, ready to follow his lead. Adachi timidly follows the protagonist, feeling somewhat intimidated by his powerful presence. He then gets the young man's attention and offers him a tissue, which leaves the hero a bit confused. His friend holds out the tissue, approaching to offer the small gesture of kindness. Tokiya asks if it's a napkin, and Adachi explains he found it on a table and thought he could wipe his face. With an awkward smile, he adds that if he were more useful, his new friend's burden would be lighter. The protagonist is touched by the gesture, thinking that there truly are many good people in the world. He reassures him that's not true and that he's been a great help, which moves Adachi. Suddenly, several blue creatures appear in the hallway, announcing that the 2 previous stages have been breached. With a wicked smile, the monster tells everyone not to hold back and to devour everything in their path. The countdown to reach the lobby begins, giving them just over 4 minutes to get there. Adachi asks if the trick to beating the boss was his speed and if having high stats guarantees victory. The protagonist explains that it's not that simple, as it also depends on individual skill. His friend then worries, admitting he's bad at sports and couldn't dodge attacks even with level 5 speed. Adachi looks at him with admiration, thinking he must have undergone special training to be so strong. They stop at the top of a staircase, and the hero prepares to give his friend the next set of instructions. He tells Adachi to wait there and warn anyone who arrives not to run, which confuses the young man. Toki explains it's a crucial hidden rule. If they're judged for fleeing, they won't be able to leave. Adachi asks what's wrong, but the protagonist doesn't answer and simply turns to descend. He says that since his friend didn't defeat the boss, it would be too dangerous for him to come down. Adachi understands and promises to warn everyone with a salute, making Toki think his friend is a good guy. He knows that with help, he can easily unlock the hidden rule, but doing it alone will be tough. Toki is aware that the 3rd stage contains 10 level 5 guards and 1 level 7 boss. It's a much harder stage than the 2nd, with formidable guards and an even stronger leader. In his past life, the only way to clear was by cooperating and fighting the enemies as a team. Suddenly, he hears someone call his name from the top of the stairs and turns to see who it is. A smirk crosses his face as he realizes the person he's been waiting for has finally arrived. In his past life, this person also discovered the hidden rule, and it was the key to their group's victory. His name is Kinomi Yuya. In the previous timeline, he stood out even before a protagonist. Adachi tries to convey the don't run message, but Yuya misinterprets it as mockery. Tokiya steps in, clarifying that it's not a joke, but a warning from a teammate. Yuruo acknowledges his impressive performance in the 2nd stage, admitting he didn't need any help. But now that he understands the situation, he wants to challenge the hero to prove who is the strongest. He lunges to attack, but the protagonist warns him to focus on defeating the next boss first. The hero states he's facing the wrong enemy, and that they should join forces to win. With a single swift and precise blow, he strikes Yuyo in the chest, sending him flying backward. The young man is shocked by Toki's superhuman strength. Unable to believe what just happened, he wonders if it's a game-induced boost or some kind of special ability he's unaware of. The protagonist then offers Yuya 3 cards, inviting him to join the battle. With a suspicious gaze, the young man asks what he means by join you and glares at him. The hero confirms, adding that if he joins him, the 3 power card are his. The protagonist then flicks a memory card at Yuya, which hits him squarely on the forehead. The green card glows brightly, beginning to restore the young man's memories and leaving him stunned by the sensation. Tokiya knows that erasing memories hinders unity without them. There's no reason to protect anything. He's aware that the Dark God understands human nature, and this is its greatest weapon against them. The memory awakens Yua's recollections, and a green aura completely envelopes him. The hero says he knows who Yuya cares about and asks if he'll accept his proposal. Now Yui remembers his younger brother and realizes he must survive to see him again. He then asks if by joining the protagonist, they are guaranteed to clear the dungeon. With a confident smile, Toki assures him they will and tosses him the 3 power cards. Yua promises not to forget this favor and activates the cards, boosting his power stats. Toki announces he'll go on ahead, as there are still enemies to be defeated along the way. He then activates his own power cards and the surprise boss buff to prepare himself. The hero knows that even at level 7, the next boss will be a challenge, and he needs more power. Fortunately, the buff increases his power by 3 levels, making him significantly stronger for the battle. With a smirk, he thanks the boss for the assist and notes his power has risen another level. Suddenly, several blue monsters appear before them, ready for the stage's final combat. The monsters mock the two, calling them scrawny and claiming they won't withstand their powerful attacks. For the first time, Yua feels the monster's intimidating presence and is slightly unnerved. He then wonders if the 2 of them alone can truly defeat these powerful creatures, but the protagonist reassures him, stating the 2 of them are more than enough to win. The system displays the player's stats with Toki at power level 11 and Yuya at level 2. With his power augmented, the protagonist declares that he is now the stage boss and prepares to attack. He charges at the monsters with his sword drawn, but Yuya shouts for him to wait and not to rush in. The young man thinks the hero's actions are suicidal and doesn't understand why he's taking such a risk. Yui recalls his underground fights where he always faced strangers in dangerous combat. He knows the best strategy in these situations is to carefully analyze one's opponent. With a confident smile, his opponent charges forward, aiming a powerful and precise punch. He closely observes the enemy's movements, preparing to counterattack and defend. With a swift motion, he dodges the blow and lands a powerful punch that knocks his opponent down instantly. But Toki warns him not to advance blindly, or he'll be defeated by the blue monsters. One of the guards calls him a weakling and threatens him with its electric biton as its stats are revealed. The monster then lunges with a preemptive strike, attempting to hit the protagonist with its biton. With his sword ready, he prepares to counterattack, delivering a powerful and precise blow. Yuya is impressed by the young man's speed and power, wondering if he was holding back before. The guard senses something is wrong with him and orders the others to use their skills and attack as a group. With 56 seconds remaining, a system alert warns all players to enter the underground lobby. The 2 then face each other in silence, bracing for the final combat that is about to begin. Yuya and Tokiya exchange glances, preparing for the battle awaiting them in the underground lobby. He knows that as a hidden rule, the enemies will attack the moment they step into the lobby, even during the countdown. With his sword glowing blue, he attacks the guards with a powerful spinning strike. With 49 seconds left, he thinks he needs to defeat as many monsters as possible to protect everyone. Adachi tries to calm the other players, reassuring them they have plenty of time to reach the lobby. The protagonist realizes his friend has understood the plan and is pleased with his quick thinking. With 21 seconds remaining, Adachi instructs everyone to enter the underground lobby in an orderly manner. He understands the hero's intention is to stall until the last second, preventing anyone from entering the lobby prematurely. The countdown reaches just 12 seconds, and the tension mounts for the players who have yet to enter. Yuya argues the enemies aren't that strong and that they should help the protagonist in the battle, but Toki shouts at him to stay back and not interfere in the fight against the blue guards. The monsters remark that the young man is too strong and that they need to recharge by targeting the other players. The hero then gets Yuya's attention, declaring it's now his turn to join the fight. One of the guards charges at the players, but Yura steps in front to shield them from the attack. With a roar of anger, he tries to block the monster's blow, but is sent flying backward. He then yells at the monster not to dare touch the others. Realizing there's a reason the hero is protecting them, Yuya attempts to strike the guard with his fists, but finds his blows are causing no damage. He then wonders how the protagonist is managing to fight against such powerful monsters. Adachi tells everyone to be quiet to avoid attracting the monsters, adding that the hero will handle it. The other players agree, deciding the only thing they can do now is to trust them. They then hope that the 2 of them can hold their ground and not fall to the blue monsters. The protagonist realizes his sword skill points have fully accumulated. One of the guards then orders the other monsters to attack all at once and end the fight. With a confident look, the protagonist says he was thinking the exact same thing as the monsters. He then unleashes his time splitter cut, striking all the guards at once with his powerful skill. Adachi and the others are in awe, remarking how incredible it is to have someone so strong on their side. Meanwhile, Yui struggles to fight a single guard, wondering how the hero is so overwhelmingly powerful. Tokyo then faces the last standing guard, warning with a cold gaze that he's next. But this guard is the final level 7 boss, and it stares back at the young man with a psychopathic grin. The monster says it takes pleasure in finishing off guys like the protagonist and readies itself for battle. The other players are terrified by the boss's level 10 power and begin to doubt their chances of victory. The hero charges forward, recalling that in his past life, this boss took down many people in a long, drawn-out fight. With his sword, he unleashes a powerful slash of red energy toward the enemy. But he thinks that this time, he alone will be more than enough to win. The boss lets out a maniacal laugh and manages to block our protagonist's powerful attack. Unfazed, Tokyo presses forward with determination to continue the combat. He uses his skill again, delivering a torrent of red slashes upon the giant monster. Under the barrage of blows, the final boss is completely vanquished, dissolving into light. The system then displays the young man's status screen, revealing he has leveled up to 8. He realizes that by defeating the weaker monsters, he obtained cards that significantly boosted his power. The protagonist muses that the best part of fighting alone is claiming all the XP and cards for himself. Adachi and the others are in shock at his inhuman strength, vowing to follow him forever. Seeing only one monster remains, Yuya charges, yelling he'll finish it with a single punch. But the monster furiously retorts that Yuya is the one who's in for a bad time. However, before the redhead can attack, the protagonist appears and slices the guard in half with one blow. Yura collapses to the ground, stunned, unable to believe he instantly defeated the monster he struggled so much against. A system notification congratulates everyone for clearing the dungeon and displays the ranking with Toki at 99%. With a confident expression, the hero awaits the reward calculation, wondering what bonus he'll receive. The screen reveals that the survival reward allows them to take everything back to the real world. The other players are ecstatic to see they will also receive rewards for their efforts. The protagonist thinks that clearing the dungeon grants a basic prize that aids survival. But there's a catch. In his previous life, stronger individuals began to use their powers for evil in the real world. Therefore, this time he decides he must establish rules to manage the players as soon as possible. To do so, he needs support, and he knows his top ranking will attract some powerful figures. The overall contribution ranking screen places him firmly in first with a 3,000-point lead. He sees himself as the undisputed leader to everyone else. He's the one who dictates the rules of the game. At that moment, all players receive their abilities, feeling their bodies grow stronger and lighter. Adachi is also thrilled to see his new attributes, even if they are all at level 1. Yuya also checks his panel, feeling much stronger with the stats now at level 2. As for the protagonist, he examines his status and sees his power has reached an impressive level 15. The system then announces that contribution rewards will be generated based on each person's percentage. The two young men wonder if they'll receive anything with such a low contribution, regretting not fighting harder. Tokia is also unsure what he'll get, as his contribution in his past life wasn't nearly this high. Adachi is pleased because with his new power card, he can increase his ability score again. Meanwhile, Yua boasts about getting 2 cards, saying his contribution was incredible. They then look towards the protagonist, wondering what kind of reward he will receive. With a smile, the hero says this is all new to him as he receives 3 brilliant cards. His rewards are 1 card that elevates stats to level 10, another that allows a class change, and a third that summons allies. He's thrilled, realizing he can now boost his skills and gather allies simultaneously, feeling incredibly lucky. Suddenly, the ground begins to tremble, and the other players panic, not understanding what's happening. They realize the dungeon is collapsing and wonder if they can finally return to reality. The protagonist confirms that upon clearing a dungeon, they can return to the real world for a short time. But he warns them that the world has changed and the creator of this deadly game is trying to destroy everything. The others are shocked, wondering who in the world would do something so terrible. Toki then tells them he's counting on everyone to give their all in the next dungeon that appears. He encourages them to gain power to defeat the villain who imprisoned them and to protect the world. Adachi is confused by the word protect and doesn't quite grasp the hero's speech. Yuya, however, just eyes him with suspicion, thinking the protagonist is making some very bold claims. A system notification then announces that for placing first, the young man has earned a special S-rank card. A shadowy entity materializes, stating that if he proves capable, it will grant him the power of a god. Suddenly, the protagonist awakens back in his hospital bed, realizing he has returned to the real world. He sighs, hoping the others will believe him, as he needs more power to save the world. At that moment, a nurse rushes into the room, shouting for the doctor that the patient has finally awakened. The doctor confirms that he is completely lucid and his vital signs are all normal, but he reveals that hundreds of thousands of people have fallen into a coma just like him over the past 3 days. The doctor notes that the young man was the first to wake up and asks if he knows the cause of the mass coma. However, Toki ignores the question and with a serious gaze asks the doctor where his mother is. The man leads him to her room, explaining that she also fell into a coma and has not yet awakened. With a professional tone, he states that in medical terms, the protagonist's mother is in a vegetative state. The hero then realizes that, just as in his past life, his mother was also chosen as a player. He knows that not all players are sent at once, and that those who fail end up in this condition. Looking at his mother, he remembers that those chosen for the game simply cannot return. At that, he touches the golden card in his pocket, reflecting that his greatest wish is about to be fulfilled. His one wish is for his mother to live in peace, free from any more suffering. He then reveals that he holds a special S-rank card number 1 named Free. With it, he can prevent someone from being chosen for the game and also gain a special ability. Resolved, he decides now is the time to use the card and liberate his beloved mother from this deadly game. The doctor's blinded by the intense golden light, wondering what on earth is happening. Shocked by the scene, the doctor adjusts his glasses, trying to comprehend the phenomenon he's witnessing. With his eyes wide in astonishment, he stammers that he simply can't believe it. His mother then awakens, confused, asking where she is and calling for her son, the doctor. Without a second thought, the young man rushes to embrace his mother with all his might, completely overwhelmed with emotion. With a gentle smile, he tells her that from this day forward, she no longer has to fight and suffer. The doctor is stunned by the scene, wondering if what he just witnessed was a miracle. Meanwhile, the world contribution ranking shows Kuro's Toki's name isolated in first place. Because of this, several mysterious figures decide they must recruit the world's number 1 player. They fear that with such power, the young man could become the new ruler of the world. Back at the hospital, his mother recounts a strange dream about a terrifying amusement park. The protagonist listens with a smile, realizing she ended up in a deadly park-themed dungeon. She continues saying a monster almost attacked her, but something happened at that very moment. According to her, everything suddenly went dark and she lost consciousness right there. When she awoke, the first thing she saw was her son's face, and she asks if it wasn't a bizarre dream. With a gentle smile, the young man thinks that unfortunately, what she experienced was no dream. Suddenly, Kia's voice echoes in the room, and the hero realizes he also managed to clear the dungeon. His friend bursts in, proclaiming he came to the rescue and felt like a manga protagonist. He says strong people helped him clear it, and the mother asks if he also had a strange dream. The protagonist wears a bored expression, thinking his friend has the same old energy. He then asks his mother to rest, saying he's going to talk with Kia outside for a moment. Out in the hallway, his friend insists it's no joke and that the weird game even had a name. Tokyo cuts him off, stating the game's name is Pre-Eyes Day, which leaves Kia in shock. The hero then tells him to check the contribution ranking to prove it's all real. Utterly confused, his friend just scratches his head, wondering what this ranking thing is. Just then, a blue system screen materializes before him, leaving him completely speechless. With his eyes wide in amazement, his friend stammers as he sees the name of the number 1 player. The protagonist then confirms with a smirk that what he's seeing is the absolute truth. The system screen shows that first place in the ranking belongs to Karaskia with 3,000 points. With a confident look, the hero declares that he himself is the top-ranked player and faces his friend. Kia is stunned, unable to believe his friend is number 1 in that game. Tokia then reveals his class change card, saying the information will come to him. Without wasting time, he activates the card and a powerful golden aura envelopes him in the hallway. The system announces that the class change has been initiated and a random profession will be selected. The young man explains that every class in the game is powerful, but they require leveling and the cards are rare. He knows that classes are weak initially, but possess infinite potential over time. One of the 3 supreme classes is the messenger of the 4 elements who commands the powers of nature. The second is the descendant of the black flame dragon who transforms into a mighty giant dragon. And the last is the seeker of time who manipulates the timeline and wields powers of temporal travel. Amidst numerous data screens, the protagonist wonders which new class he will be assigned. A screen appears in a brilliant flash of light, revealing the name of his new class, Master of Principles. The hero is completely floored, even in his past life. He had never heard of this class. The screen then shows that his new class has a passive ability resonance with tools. The class's skill tree is revealed, and the young man notices many unknown levels. He's surprised, as normal classes only have 3 levels. This one will be incredibly difficult to level up. With an excited smile, he thinks that if he reaches the end, he'll gain unbelievable power. His friend remarks that he's apparently the first person in the world to achieve a class change in the game. Kia then becomes desperate, calling out the protagonist's name. Unsure of what to do, the hero asks what's wrong, and his friend throws himself on the floor, begging for help. With a pleading expression, he begs his friend to carry him and help him get stronger. Suddenly, a nurse appears in the hallway and asks if she's interrupting something. The protagonist looks at her, remembering how much trouble he had with bills in his past life. She then informs him that the hospital payments are over a month late and the money is needed. His friend offers his car to help, but the hero declines, saying he'll handle it. He reflects that in his past life, he managed this by working as a bodyguard using his physical strength. With determination, he says he relied too much on his mother, but now he will resolve things himself. The nurse excuses herself and steps away to take an important call. With a confused expression, she answers the phone, trying to process the information she's receiving. Shocked by the news, the woman stammers, asking if what she heard is really true. With a huge smile, she announces that someone has paid off all the hospital's debts at once. She then points to the protagonist's friend and says that even the bald guy's portion was covered. The young man gets annoyed by the nickname, clarifying he's not a patient and is just visiting his friend. The two stare at each other in silence, and the protagonist points toward room 226. At that moment, a blond man and his two companions appear in the hallway and approach them. The man asks with an air of superiority where he can find Kurosaki in this hospital. The protagonist and his friend are confused, wondering who these strange people are. The man asks if they're friends with Kroju and requests they pass on important message. With a smirk, the protagonist thinks that the major players of Prison Day have arrived early. His friend then asks what they want with Tikuya, eyeing them suspiciously. Kia analyzes their attire and realizes they seem to be very important individuals. He then wonders if they've come for his friend because he's the world's #1 rank. His friend reflects on the money they paid, wondering how much a lifetime's worth of expenses would cost. The nurse then whispers to the protagonist that those were the people who paid the bills. The hero calmly replies that he's already aware, leaving the woman a bit confused by his reaction. Without missing a beat, the young man introduces himself to the group as Krosu Tokia. The blond man is impressed that he remains expressionless in their presence, and that he's so young. The protagonist knows these people are influential in various fields and analyzes them carefully. The blond man is Sumo, head of a major corporation and a rising star in politics. The one in the suit is Kadoi, CEO of a tech company with strong ties to the military. The woman is Aurora, president of Group X, which holds vast energy resources and global influence. The group's leader says it's an honor to meet him and prepares for a formal introduction. But the protagonist cuts him off, stating he already knows who they are and tells him to get to the point. The blond man is taken back by the young man's audacity, not expecting such an attitude. The man in the suit thinks that the world's #1 player is indeed as impressive as the rumor suggests. The woman smiles, thinking the hero is a far more interesting person than she had imagined. The woman then invites him to move to another location as they have prepared a special room for their talk. But the protagonist declines the offer, telling them to talk right there in the hospital's waiting room. The two men exchange a brief glance, a silent acknowledgement that they understand the young man's message. The group's leader agrees, and they all head to the waiting room to begin their discussion. The woman smiles, thinking he's doing this to maintain the upper hand in negotiation. The nurse and his friend are shocked, unable to believe he could barely afford his bills just moments ago. The hero then calls his friend, asking him to bring the strategy guide he gave him earlier. Kia awkwardly scratches his head, asking if it's really necessary for him to fetch that guide. With a guilty expression, he confesses he thought it was a joke and threw the guide away. Desperate, his friend dashes down the hallway, saying he'll retrieve the guide right now. The protagonist is irritated, thinking this is why neither he nor his mother received any rewards. The woman then asks curiously about the strategy guide he mentioned. He calmly replies that it's the strategy guide for the game's beginner dungeons. The three are stunned, telling him to stop joking as the game has barely started. With a smirk, he says whether it's true or not, his friend will soon find out. The nurse is startled by several men in suits standing at the door and asks who they are. The blond man reads the guide and is shocked to see it describes the exact dungeon he experienced. The other two also confirm their dungeons are detailed within down to the last particular. The protagonist's friend asks if it was all true, and he confirms it with a smile. Kia then laments missing a huge opportunity to get ahead and feels incredibly frustrated. The group's leader apologizes, admitting his power exceeds their imagination and they are not qualified. The protagonist crosses his arms and with a smile asks what else they have to say. The woman remarks that with such a guide, it's as if he can foresee everything that will happen in the game. With a smirk, he confirms that is precisely the case, and that he knows everything. He reflects that in his past life, survivors posted the details online, and he memorized it all. All that past effort is now paying off, serving as a trump card against the dark gods. He then leans forward and asks directly what they want from him now. The group of powerful individuals exchanges a look before answering his question. The three of them bow respectfully, asking the young man to become their advisor. The blonde man admits the feeling of walking a tight rope in the dungeon was truly terrifying. The man in the suit believes that with the hero's help, they won't have to face that situation again. The woman adds that they will be forced back into the game and don't want to fare poorly. Kia observes the entire negotiation in silence as his friend takes charge. Therefore, the group's leader declares with determination that they will accept any condition he imposes. With a casual air, the protagonist says he doesn't mind becoming their advisor. His friend's eyes sparkle with excitement, thinking his partner is incredibly cool. He then reflects that his friend's family is poor and what they need most is money. The young man already imagines himself swimming in cash and going on spending sprees with his best friend. But the protagonist interrupts him, stating he has 3 conditions for accepting their offer. His colleague swells with pride, thinking that as expected, his friend is a true master negotiator. The group's leader says that even 30 or 300 conditions will be fine, but the hero surprises him. His friend is shocked, lamenting that he didn't ask for more when he had the chance. The protagonist's first condition is to publicly release the strategy guide for everyone. The group's leader is taken aback, asking if he's really going to give away something that could save lives for free. The man in the suit agrees, stating the value of that guide is beyond anyone's imagination. The woman comments that this only proves how dangerous the game truly is for everyone. The hero then looks at them and asks if he didn't just show them the guide for free. The group is left speechless by his response, realizing he has a valid point. He then explains that his goals differ from theirs. He wants to save more people. With a serious gaze, the protagonist warns that if they don't accept the discussion ends here, they realize the young man is serious and the woman admires him for being unstood by profit. The three then bow again, promising fulfill the first condition immediately. The second condition is to establish a player management agency with very clear rules. The blonde man smiles, assuring him they can relax, as they already intend to do just that. He then prepares to announce his final and perhaps most important condition for the deal. The group tenses up, wondering if the last condition is something even they cannot fulfill. His friend then shouts for the protagonist to ask for money, calling it his last wish. But the hero ignores him and says he wants a house. So he and his mother no longer have to live in the hospital. He glances at his mother in her bed, saying he just wants her to live a normal, peaceful life. The three are dumbfounded by the simple request, and his friend facepalms in frustration. The protagonist adds that if it's too difficult, he can withdraw the request, as he dislikes the feeling of begging. The group implores him not to withdraw, insisting that preparing a house for him is an easy task. With a smirk, the protagonist tells them not to get so excited about his request. The leader apologizes for the scene, and the other two just laugh awkwardly at the situation. They think that of all the conditions, this is the easiest and the one that will most increase his favor toward them. He then concludes the matter, saying he needs to return to his room as he has other things to handle. The hero warns that the countdown for the next prison day will begin shortly. The three are shocked by this information, asking if what he said is really true. At that moment, a 3-day countdown appears before them, proving the young man was right. He then informs them that once they fulfill the second condition, he will provide the strategy for the next dungeon. The three bow respectfully, saying they will do as he commands without question. The protagonist then turns and heads back to the hospital room to rest. The powerful group watches the young man depart, preparing to carry out his orders. One of the security guards informs them that someone wishes to meet with the protagonist. The man in the suit gets annoyed, telling him not to bother the protagonist and to have the person wait outside. But the security guard stammers, asking if the young woman who arrived is the girlfriend of the young man in the room. The group is surprised by the question and turns to see who this person is. Kia then freaks out, saying the girl is Mr. Kurosa's person and that they make a great couple. With a look of betrayal, he grabs the man in the suit, demanding to know how Toya could get a girlfriend. But the young woman interrupts, telling him not to say things that cause misunderstandings, as that's not the case. His friend ignores her, continuing his dramatic display, insisting he won't let her pass. One of the women in the group glares at the girl with contempt, remarking that it's been a while. The protagonist then recognizes the girl and says with a serious look, "So was you all along." With a wicked smile, the young woman remembers how she rejected and humiliated him in front of everyone in the past. He thinks that he never had feelings for her, but now she has also become a player. The girl approaches with a bouquet of flowers, saying she's deeply sorry for what happened in the past. The powerful group senses the hero's genuine hatred for the woman and decides to wait before intervening. His friend erupts, accusing her of insulting the protagonist in front of the entire school. She claims she was young and foolish, and now deeply regrets her actions from back then. But the young man cuts her off, saying she only came crawling back because she saw his name on the ranking. The young woman is left speechless by the accusation as the others stare at her with disdain. The woman in the group realizes the girl is just an opportunist and judges her with a single glance. The girl tries to defend herself, pleading with him not to leave her to fare poorly alone in the dangerous game. His friend gets furious, shouting that she didn't just reject him. She insulted and humiliated him. The protagonist calms him down, reminding him they're in a hospital and need to leave. Before departing, he looks at the girl and states that for the record, he never liked her, not even for a second. She panics, saying that if he saves her, she'll even let him be her boyfriend and whatever else he wants. The girl runs after him, promising she'll never leave his side if he helps her. But as she reaches the door, she's blocked by two enormous security guards who stare at her sternly. The two men in suits and sunglasses do not let her pass, glaring at her with an intimidating look. Unfazed, she claims to be Toki's girlfriend and demands they let her through immediately. The woman from the group then remarks that it doesn't seem like Mr. Krosu wants anything to do with her. The group's leader then orders the guards to escort her out, and they complete instantly. His friend celebrates, asking if getting rid of her didn't feel good for the protagonist. With a serious expression, the hero thinks that based on his memories, she should be in the hospital now. He then walks to his mother's room door, preparing for the reunion he has long awaited. With a swift motion, he opens the door and finally finds the person he was searching for. A beautiful girl with white hair and red eyes looks at him with a gentle gaze and a smile. The girl is so beautiful, she seems to glow, and the protagonist stares back at her. His mother then informs him that Eureka is here to see him again and has been waiting for his return. With a smile, he says it's been a long time since he's seen her and greets her with a wave. The young woman is confused, saying she was just there last week and that it hasn't been that long. The protagonist then remembers her passing away in his arms in his past life and becomes emotional. He embraces her tightly, vowing that in this life he won't let a single person he loves fare poorly. The girl is completely embarrassed by the hug, while his mother just laughs at the cute scene. His friend is confused, wondering if the two are really just friends, as it looks suspicious. Later that night, the full moon illuminates the sky, and the hospital room is quiet. The protagonist watches his mother sleeping peacefully, feeling relieved that she is well. He thinks that the hospital moved them to a VIP room and that those people truly have influence. The system then displays the remaining time for the next dungeon, 63 hours. With the countdown before him, he knows the next dungeon should follow the same pattern as in his past life. He reflects that he gained an ability called skill maintenance, which activates upon touch. To test it, the young man places his hand on the edge of the bed to see what his new ability does. A wave of blue energy spreads through the room, and the protagonist is surprised by its power. He realizes he can see the minute details of any object he is currently touching. With his enhanced vision, he notices that the second screw on the bed's left leg is loose. The hero thinks it's a shame he has no weapons in the hospital, as he wanted to test the ability on them. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoes in his mind, saying he is qualified to participate. He asks who the entity is and what he is qualified for not understanding the situation. The voice replies that he will know who it is in due time, but for now he must make a decision. A dark silhouette appears, telling him to decide whether he will accept its special test. With his eyes glowing, he realizes this being has the power to help him defeat the god. Without hesitation, the protagonist accepts the test and tells the entity to begin the challenge immediately. The entity gives a sinister smile, says very well, and declares the test will start now. But it warns him that if he fails to clear the test, he can never return to this world. The young man is then pulled into a vortex of blue energy. Surprised by its sacred power, he wonders what reward he will receive for clearing this mysterious test from the dark entity. A tornado of blue energy forms, and the system announces the commencement of the trial grounds. A blue ice spike erupts from the ground, preparing to attack our protagonist in the test. He dodges the attack with a leap, ready himself for the challenge the entity has prepared. With a focused and determined gaze, the hero faces the trial grounds, ready for whatever comes his way. He finds himself before a dark palace, wondering what this place is in the middle of nowhere. Blue energy begins to form in front of him, and he eyes the manifestation with curiosity. The entity then explains the rule is simple. He must defeat the opponent in 10 minutes. It also advises him that wisdom that sees all is the only way to win the challenge. The protagonist looks at the entity with a serious expression, preparing for the impending combat. The entity then announces the start of the test, and a feminine figure begins to materialize. A blind and invulnerable swordsman appears, and the 10-minute countdown for the test begins. The young man eyes the skeleton within the armor, wondering if that is his opponent. With a smile, he finds the battle between the strongest player and the strongest swordsman intriguing. A blue sword is granted to him, descending from the heavens and a beam of light for the combat. The hero wields the weapon, remarking, "It's perfect," as he wanted to use his new ability anyway, but the system informs him that resonance cannot be activated because the target is not physical. He then realizes the ability only works on physical entities and that the sword is an illusion. With a determined look, he declares he won't waste any more time and will clear the test at once. The swordsman charges, and the protagonist challenges it to show him the power of the strongest swordsman. With a smile, he praises the opponent's skill as they exchange sword blows. The enemy attacks with a spinning strike, but the hero manages to defend with his blue sword. He notes that despite the large sword, the opponent's movements are incredibly fast. The blind swordsman continues its assault with a relentless series of quick and powerful strikes. The protagonist then wonders if this swift and powerful attack is its ultimate move. The swordsman attacks with full force, but the protagonist manages to dodge and counterattack with precision. He remarks the move is incredible, but that the opponent's guard was left wide open during the attack. He then wonders if the swordsman is also an illusion, just like the sword he's using. Therefore, he says he won't feel bad about finishing it off and continues his assault. The young man thinks the wound he inflicted should have been fatal, but the opponent seems to feel nothing. He then realizes it had no effect and that the strongest swordsman truly cannot be harmed. The protagonist finally understands the meaning of his opponent's title. No one can defeat it. With only 5 minutes remaining, he wonders what he must do to win. He continues to evade the swordsman's attacks while trying to devise an effective strategy. The hero recalls the entity's hint, realizing it must signify something important. Amidst one of the attacks, he notices a skull caught in the swordsman's hair and is surprised. He realizes the opponent is protecting the skull and that it must be its weak point. With that, the young man understands a swordsman's oath is to protect the person behind it. He then gets an idea and prepares to put his new plan into action to win the challenge. The entity states that a technique that caliber is unworthy of receiving its special blessing. With a wicked smile, it asserts that no matter what swordsmanship he uses, he cannot win. The protagonist then leaps over his opponent, preparing to attack the skull directly. The swordsman spins around in shock, realizing the young man's strategy, and tries to defend. The entity is surprised by the hero's boldness, not having expected such a move. The young man then shouts for the swordsman to open its eyes and see the person it's protecting. The swordsman turns and faces the skull it had been protecting on its back all this time. Upon seeing the skull, it lets out a cry of pain and despair, and its body begins to disintegrate. It clutches the skeleton and weeps in sorrow as its body turns to dust and flames. With only 51 seconds left, the protagonist watches his opponent vanish. He says the answer was in the hint he needed to make the enemy realize the truth. The young man understands the sword he received was merely a misdirection for the test. He then faces the miss and challenges the enemy to show itself as he has solved the mystery. The entity congratulates him, remarking that the simplest truth is often the hardest to see. It praises him for succeeding and declares him worthy of receiving its true blessing. The protagonist looks at the entity, wondering what kind of power he will receive as a reward. An intense blue energy completely envelopes him, and his body begins to absorb the new power. The entity then smiles, saying, "The true test begins now with the newly received blessing." The hero is confused, wondering what it means by there is still a test ahead. The voice then instructs him to feel the emotions of all living beings to accept the power of a god. He then experiences the pain, joy, anger, and sadness of countless souls all at once. Overwhelmed by the emotions, a glass barrier shatters, and he is thrown into a new location. The young man lands amidst a sea of skulls and suffering faces. Not understanding what is happening, he realizes that the power of a god consists of the faith and emotions of those living on earth. Looking at the suffering souls, he understands that this is truly a tremendous power. With his face bruised and bleeding, he faces the new challenge with a serious and determined gaze. With a confident smile, he says that with this power, he can finally confront the god. He then declares that the gods of earth will have his support in opposing the evil god. The entity states that this is the final test, and that no human can withstand such power. An explosion of energy occurs, and the protagonist is enveloped in an intense, blinding light. The entity is surprised by what happens. Unable to comprehend how the young man is still standing, the hero rises amidst the debris, admitting that it's truly impossible to withstand. With a smirk, he asks if that's all the entity can throw at him. The voice congratulates him, saying that as expected, he is the human they acknowledged and is deserving. It says he has obtained its blessing and must remember its name for the future. The entity promises that when he is recognized by them, he will obtain the true, supreme blessing. The protagonist is confused by the mention of a supreme blessing and the entity's name. He tries to ask for the voice's name, but it disappears amidst white, glowing thirst. Back in a hospital bed, he wakes up gasping, wondering what blessing he has received. Just then, a system screen appears before him, and he stares at it with a serious, curious look. The screen reveals he has gained the blessing of Mental Guardian, and his patron is the Serf Gabriel. With a satisfied smile, he thinks the new blessing will be very useful in future battles. But for now, he is more eager for the supreme blessing Gabriel mentioned in the test. He then realizes the mental illness that tormented him was actually the gods of Earth. With a determined look, he glances at the 23-hour countdown for the dungeon. His friend then bursts into the room, shocked, saying there's even a video version of the guide. The protagonist gives his friend a light smack on the head, telling him to keep it down in a hospital. His friend says he was moved by the video and that the production was simply amazing. His mother smiles, commenting that the two of them really get along well as good friends. The hero thinks the group acted quickly and that the guide's video is already circulating everywhere. He also sees they've cooperated with the government and established a management agency. Looking at the ranking, he thinks this could serve as a catalyst for other players. Suddenly, the nurse informs him a car has arrived to pick him up outside. His friend rushes to the window, confirming the powerful group has indeed come for his partner. With his eyes sparkling with excitement, he yells that it's true and the scene is impressive. Outside, a limousine and several black cars with security guards await the protagonist. The woman from the group asks the young man to inform the hero she came personally to pick him up. His friend runs in the room announcing that all three have come to get him from the hospital. The protagonist then says he understands and that he'll be down to meet them shortly. His mother worries, asking him not to get his hands dirty with any crime. He reassures her not to worry, as he hasn't done anything wrong. With a smile, he says he's actually saving the world, which leaves her quite confused. With a serious look, he states that eventually everyone will know the truth, and says his goodbyes. The group's leader takes him to a mansion, noting the organic food and beautiful landscape. He also informs him that for their security, guards and maids will be on duty 24 hours a day. His friend is shocked by the luxury, wondering how much such a house must cost. The man clarifies that the property is his and therefore cannot be found on the market. His friend freaks out, asking if that means the house is one of a kind and exclusive in the world. The protagonist ignores him and asks the man to show him the other places he has to offer. The other two from the group watch from a distance, preparing their next offer. The man in the suit comments that it was a rejection and the woman declares she will be the one to win. With a confident smile, he says the house he selected is something no young person can refuse. He then takes them to a skyscraper, stating a place like this is perfect for the young man. His friend is amazed by the view, yelling that you can see the entire city from there. The man explains the building is in the city center and was designed by a famous architect. With a victorious smile, he announces the largest pantsuit is already prepared for him. The protagonist's friend is shocked to learn there are other things prepared for them. The man then snaps his fingers, summoning the surprises he has prepared. At that, several beautiful maids appear, introducing themselves to the hero as his new servants. His friend's eyes turn into hearts as he exclaims at the sight of so many divine beauties. The maids surround him, saying he can order whatever he wishes and that he is very cool. The other two from the group are shocked, wondering why they hadn't thought of that before. The man then smiles, thinking no man in the world could refuse such an offer. But the protagonist looks at him coldly and simply tells him to show the next option. The man in the suit is stunned, unable to believe the young man refused such an offer. The woman then smiles, realizing that Mr. Krosu is truly different from all the others. The blonde man thinks this means he still has a chance to impress the young man. The woman then invites him to come with her, saying the place she chose is not luxurious. She reveals she had someone investigate his mother's past and takes him to a special location. Upon their arrival, she asks if he is familiar with the place, looking at him with a gentle smile. His friend recognizes the location, saying it's the house where the protagonist lived as a child. The other two are shocked, realizing the game is over for them with this move. The woman explains the house has changed owners many times and the layout is different now. But she says she tried to restore everything as much as possible to make him feel comfortable and at ease. The hero is moved, saying it's incredible, and the house is almost identical to his memories. With a sincere smile, he thanks her for the gesture, and the woman is happy he liked it. The two men look crestfallen, unable to believe they lost so perfectly. The protagonist then calls his friend, asking him to bring the guide for the next dungeon. The woman is surprised, asking what that is the young man is pulling from inside his pants. The friend explains that the hero wrote the complete strategy for the game's second dungeon.